All right, and now we would like to welcome Rachael Johnson, who is a disabled neurodivergent Diné Reader poet from the Navajo Nation. She belongs to the Táchii'nii, I hope I said that right, the red running into the water people. Did I say that right, Táchii'nii?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
okay, thank you. She has won lots of awards and is in many, many different books that are too long to even, I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to because I want to hear her for real. So yes, please welcome Rachael Johnson.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me here today, and to Bill for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Are those lights too bright?
Sorry. Yeah, they are.
So can we have you on that line?
Yeah, sure.
Please?
All right,
Thank you.
because she's,
Want the lights on?
The spot.
Yeah, if you could turn off the lights or dim them, that'd be great. Awesome. Thank you.
No, we can't see your face.
That's all right. You just need to listen. I'm really emotional today, so
Okay.
it's good.
We're in Pisces.
So I wanted to dedicate my reading today to the Pueblo people. Today is the anniversary of the Pueblo Revolt, which happened in 1680. A lot of the Pueblos unified under Pope, along with neighboring tribes like the Navajo and Apache, to drive out the Spanish for several years. It was one of the few successful native uprisings here. So this first poem was published in the Diné Reader, an anthology of Navajo literature. Apple, or Bilisana. In 4th grade, Mr. Wilson grabbed my cousin Terry by the sleeve of his camouflage Salvation Army jacket and threw him out of his desk to the floor. The desk tilted, then righted itself. We, all Diné students, learned then not to laugh, not to say anything at all. When I was 6, I watched my mother wash apples in the sink. She held the weight of each one in the palm of her worn brown hand and rolled each one so it shimmered, glazed in water. She handed them to me and I stacked them in a wooden fruit bowl. They were almost too large for my hands. I had to use both to cradle them. I imagined that they were what hearts looked like, felt like, tasted like, heavy, heavy, too rich and too sweet, with a crisp core that breaks too cleanly. She found one with a brown spot that collapsed under the pressure of her finger. She scooped out the rotted piece with her thumb and rinsed it into the drain, afterwards sucking the residue off her finger. You have to take out the bad part, but the apple is still good. In 9th grade, Mr. Carter, a high school coach, reached into the core of me, corrupting me. And because I'd been taught silence in 4th grade, it was a weapon, razor keen, which I cut myself against. During my college freshman year, I tried my best to fit in with the other Native students, many of whom could speak their native languages. I couldn't get past good morning, yat e bine. They rolled their eyes and called me Apple. Years later, a friend told me what it meant. Red on the outside, white on the inside. This next poem is dedicated to my bestie Mess, who passed a couple years ago, around this time of year. So it's been a lot missing him. Poetry is anxiety, the wild electric blue-black hum firing along the fractals of my synapses. Poetry reveals how reality is cast from translucent glass. Poetry is the dimensions and dark matter between self-knowledge and loneliness. It is the strong, sweet horse scent on my ragged black scarf around my neck, which tethers me, a lifeline or a noose, amidst a panic attack. Days ago, I had tied my scarf around our elderly paint pony's neck to lead him about the corral, motivating him to lazily plod along with handfuls of sweet feed. Poetry recognizes that my spirit is not my body. Poetry is the slender green creek running beneath the surface of my son's still tender skin, where his collarbones meet. Poetry forgets pain, or sometimes can only repurpose it as art. It is Albuquerque's city lights glittering like crushed glass in the cobalt blue shadow of the rounded pink Sandia Mountains. Poetry rises from the dissonance and cosmic expanses between sound and silence. Poetry is righteous anger and power. It is a surprise lover with vulnerable dark green eyes, bright feral discs of a starving lion with his paw caught in a trap. Poetry is the collapse of my mind, a rotating binary black hole system, the implosion soundless. It is cracking my fists against the dense weight bag, snapping it back, the satisfying impact stunning my shoulder as I savor my growing strength, and yes, even the pain. Poetry is my heart, a mangled lion cub, and you, dearest friend, were pure poetry, ripping on your axe, a supernova now returned to starlight and star dust. This next poem was published in the Diné Reader, an anthology of Navajo literature. Nowhere Place, Part 1. Hold on, let me go back. Sorry, my eyes are a little blurry. I'm tearing up here. This poem responds to the gruesome, racially motivated killing of two Diné unsheltered men, Allison Gorman, whose nickname was Cowboy, and Key Thompson, whose nickname was Rabbit. They were brutally beaten and murdered by 3 teenage Hispanic teens in Albuquerque back in 2014. And this poem also honors their life. Nowhere Place, Part 1. At first, your lives were only a sheer, crisp line between death and blessing, one which you traced with fingers in red dirt. Gradually, it changed, became a place, a weight you carried in backpacks that bowed your spines. You unpacked it, slept in it, that vacant lot, cut off by tilting, rusted chain-link fences and walls of corrugated steel panels, where you three, Rabbit, Cowboy, Eskeets, slept on a mattress, drinking and putting yourselves to sleep, sharing jokes, laughing, rapping, and singing our native songs, and yes, reciting poetry. Street family, put aside, discarded, disregarded. Did you dream you were fancy dancing along the nowhere border between the asphalt and the vaulted blue sky? Closer to beauty, closer to blessing. Hojon. Part 2. 3 teenage boys, willful, with the hot surge of hate and alcohol, found you sleeping. They began to beat you. One of you escaped. Rabbit and cowboy remained in that suspended space.
Yeah. Oh.
Rabbit and cowboy remained in that suspended space as those boys raised cedar blocks. Over their heads and flung them down.
No,
It's okay.
I'm just listening.
There were tree branches, a metal pole, and finally knives. When they were done, they threw dirt into your eyes, a part of our sacred Mother Earth. Nehma Nahasan, and she reclaimed you both. A flimsy wooden cross with the words, "Jesus saves," painted sloppily in white, leans against the fence. Deflated party balloons, red and yellow, tangle along the wall. White lilies bow over the weed-crowded dirt. Wajon Nahaskleen. You walk in beauty above, beauty behind, beauty around, and beauty before you. With the cool breeze on your bodies, it has become beauty again. Thanks. I'll continue here in a little bit. Just give me a few seconds. Thanks.
Take your time. We're here for you.
It's beautiful.
Thanks, Mama. Mama Rita.
So these next poems are from my chapbook. My body is an ill-fitting costume, and I brought some copies. They're on that back table there for sale. My body is an ill-fitting costume, part 1. 3 sizes too large, sometimes lulled by southern comfort, liquid sunlight. I try to disassemble myself. Later, when smoke mist clears, they thread the skin back together. I shrug into my suit, a delicate, rain-drenched hide, and escape through a sliver of moonlight. Part 2. I am an outsider inside my own body. Part 3. For fibromyalgia. It's ironic that I once believed I was defined by anguish and pain. Then my body, rickety carriage for my soul, broke and reframed itself to fit those beliefs. Now fire burns low, cooking marrow and searing joints, and ignites along silver, charcoal dust nerves. Past overflows violence, a raw gouge in our earth mother, north of home. I walk the sandy wash, as broad as silence, running west to east, where we, Diné, were forced to flee and leave our dead unburied. as US soldiers and other Native scouts hunted us down. Pale clouds shroud moon, a shuttered eye, as I accompany my ancestors and dream in midnight colors. You tear out my tongue and hang it on the line. It shudders in the dull Albuquerque breeze and cracks like a whip with each dry gust. Fat bees jerk back and forth before they settle to scrape their limbs against its wet husk. I watch pale day moths flicker close to sip the draining nectar. Finally, it becomes a bloodless thing, curling like a scream in the heat. Indian doll for sale at the thrift store. A middle-aged woman, orange hair, tightly permed, bones jostling within a red-faded, threadbare corset, manhandles the wide-eyed native doll. Hands pet imitation buckskin fringe dress, sewn with plastic beads. A smile parts lips like the sheer cut of a razor as she rubs her thumbs over the doll's sprayed-on brown skin, as his fingers explored and claimed the landscape of my body. Your skin looks great against mine, brown on white. But the doll's skin is flawless, no evidence of cutting scars at wrists, thigh, shoulder, or hollow between the breasts. He mapped the shimmery ridges of those scars too. Doll's hand-painted eyes are brown with black flecks, glaze and shade like mine. Woman clutches doll against slack chest, hand cupping the back of her head, synthetic black hair parted down the middle, tied in pigtails with a headband snug over her brow, restraining memory. He wrapped my hair around his fist, pulled until my back bowed, until he came hard. Can you grow it longer? I amputated my hair, dyed it punk red, and the color bled out slowly in the shower. My 9-year-old son's pulse whispers beneath my ear. I press my spirit closer to the desert creek's murmur. Riding the Badlands, arid wind sighs through tired midday, stark, rich desert gashed by canyons, washes red-brown and white buttes, where my ancestors lived day after day through harsh seasons and centuries, unfurling timelessly. Squeak of leather as I stand in stirrups and angle my head to read Abby, the sorrel mare's breath, steady, steady. Her hooves strike red shale, a discordant song, as we gingerly make our way through rock valleys. She nibbles at coarse grass, then neighs for ghost, her wild bay roan stud, her barrel-sized shudder between my legs, her ears erect, eyes wide, fly-bitten, neck high. She calls out how I wish I could cry. Imitations of burning, and this is after Anne Sexton's Imitations of Drowning. You dreamt of drowning, a dying that went on and on, a gin-soaked dream that followed you into waking. You found novelty in fear, which you wrapped around yourself like a fur coat, stroking its coarse grain. I've no success with drowning. I'm only good at burning. I tried beating myself against a stone to strike a spark, but his hands crumbled into fists, grappled, flung me to the linoleum floor. I was mute coal, giving off residual heat. Even the grip of my son's mouth at my nipple, tugging a strand called maternal love, couldn't lead me to living. Dreams were bleak, underside of waking. I tried to smother frenetic thoughts underwater. No luck, too shallow, too tang. Thank you. My catalyst came, his vulgar love, inciting want. I don't know how we did it, immersing ourselves into each other, closest I've come to drowning. We couldn't sustain it, slipped through the eye of each other, through the boiling foam to find waking. You drowned on air, on being. My landscape is arid, parched weeds rasp with faint stirring of evening. This is where I thrive, in the vibrancy of self-consumption, in the novelty of burning. More lighthearted piece finally. I know it's kind of hard to come up for air. My son asks, what happens when you die? Your spirit sheds your body and your soul expands to the size of an ocean. You become a part of everything, a part of the Creator. This is what I hope, at least. He asks, where is heaven? I say, we're here, and I don't have to lie. He climbs into my lap and tries to sink back into my stomach, to lay under my heart, whose cadence was once the pulse of God. He says, when you die, I want you to stay with me like a ghost, or can you stay in your body like a zombie? I smile into his fine hair. I will. I can never leave you. I don't want to be a juicy zombie, but I won't be a ghost either. Is it love that haunts us? He puts his ear under my breast as if he's trying to memorize the beat.
Oh, beautiful.
Worn penny promises. I startled from a dream because of you. You smiled, tongue curled behind bold teeth. Who knew that below the enamel, your gums were barbed? That explains the metallic sting, cold-flavored promises swallowed like worn pennies. Even that I savored. I bit down, rolled the barb over my tongue, and pressed it to the whalebone scaffold of my mouth. Ringing false, barbs caught in throat, their mass crept into brittle cage of ribs and tried to stifle lungs. Beneath my last defense, my sternum, gravity condenses around the bulk of your leaving. And this is the final poem in my chapbook. Elegy for Shaddai, my uncle, Part 1, Things He Taught Me. How to chop with an axe, feet planted apart, and bring it down with perfect force to snap pinon branches and crack pine logs without them ricocheting in my face. How to be reckless with a take-no-shit swagger and hardcore res glare behind sunglasses like him. How to stand in stirrups as his sorrel quarter-horse Abby gallops with jolting strides while my porous vertebrae complains. How to, hey man, suck it up and be invincible. How to savor and mourn loneliness, the lone wolf, arms wide, inviting hardship in the overwhelming sky. How to load and hold a British .303 rifle, steadying aim with the rifle's leather strap around elbow and squeeze the trigger. The gun doesn't buck, but cloudy purple bruises will later surface on my shoulder and kiss my collarbone. How to water Che, grandfather horntoad, who lives in scraggly brush beside my great-grandfather's hogan, so he will bless us with male rain. How to forget those who passed and those still living, and to only take out those memories in secret. How to exchange breaths 4 times with my week-old bay colt, baby, to claim him and have him claim me. How to be a man and love in fragments. Part 2, things he didn't teach me. How to misplace sorrow. How to drive stick shift on his gold GMC Sierra truck with classic rims like he promised. How to take to sobriety. How to clean and oil a gun. How to put aside anger so I won't hit him harder than I mean to when he laughs and cracks a joke about my slow, soft punches. My right fist fires from my hip, a tight hook exploding into his left side. Aim for the floating rib, like how I practiced in the dojo with my chief grandmaster. How to live between spaces, between realities, without self-destructing. How hard it is to forget that forgetting requires endless effort, like Sisyphus's losing battle. How not to shoot a British .303 rifle while drunk and suicidal. How to live beyond nights and days, weary gestures, and endure. How much a bullet weighs. Thank you. I was going to read my memoir excerpt, but I don't think I have like the emotional and spiritual endurance right now. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate the space, the audience, and you all having me here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.